Hello, Mr. Jim Varghese. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself? Yeah.
Really, really good. I think we are all heading towards a brighter and brighter future.
Yeah.
Things are looking very positive, and a lot of opening is about to start. So,
Yeah.
on that very topic, I want to start having a good conversation because you are the expert. You are the chair of Australia India Business Council, and you have taken a lot of roles in your life. And let us have a good discussion and some advice and tips from you as a chair of Australia India Business Council about the global situation. So, can I please start by asking you, how do you see the crisis? How is it going to evolve in 2022?
I think the crisis in 2022, I'm actually more optimistic than pessimistic, in that we are now entering a phase where double vaccination is becoming a certificate for travel, both within Australia and outside of Australia. It's not quite there yet, but that strategic direction is fairly clear. We're going to see economic opportunities open in the India-Australia trade and investment relationship. And ours opportunity now is to really try and plan for that. And so when you look forward to it, some of the major reforms we've done in the Australia India Business Council, for example, the establishment of 17 national industry chairs, is now going to be even more important than ever before. Right? So when you look at that, for example, we have agribusiness. Now, agribusiness, even before a free trade agreement of any kind, is going to take off. It is one of the important areas, and Con Livinius, who's our chair for that, is pushing that. Then we have corporate and investments chapter, and that chapter also is now ready to move and take the bigger picture in investment. And then, of course, we've just launching the defense and security industry chapter. This is a very important chapter headed up by Joe Williams from the ACT, and he has a very good industry defense background. So we're hoping that here the AIBC, because it's an organization of 35 years experience, has the credibility, has the contacts in a range of areas, including industry contacts, we'll be able to open this area as Australia's geopolitical situation favors India and what we now know as the Quad in relation to a new relational platform. Similarly, with education and skills, we've had Patha Mukherjee relinquishing that role, done a great job in that area. A great platform is set from a number of issues, from higher education to international students, one of our big export areas that we need to put a lot of effort into. Similarly, in the financial services sector, we're lucky to have individuals like Pranay Kumar, who is the chair for our financial services chapter, and of course the CEO of the State Bank of India. Now, those are really individuals with very high level of skills. And of course, let me not mention the healthcare chapter headed by yours truly, Tanya Udi. And you've done a great job in profiling health here, the supply chain, taking proactive action in COVID-19 in terms of programs for vaccination, looking at the health supply chapter, holding webinars. And of course, in the ICT area, very fortunate to have Ashok Maso, who also happens to be the International Vice President of Infosys. You're looking at a very high quality national industry chairs, and a lot's happening on that ICT front. We've had a really great India Tech Hub event jointly with the Springfield City Group. Already we're entering into dialogue with 3 Indian companies in what are the opportunities. Similarly, we've got people like Viswanathan, who heads up Make in India. Now, Make in India is doing extraordinarily well, a lot of energy in that, and has brought to Australia a dimension about India that we don't understand in production, supply, and how we can be part of the supply chain and part of a mutual benefit for both organizations. And we're looking for some volunteers in the area of infrastructure, and we want to make sure we get some of the right people. We've been We've been talking to some key companies there. And of course, we have Samir Vora, who is the chair of our renewable energy chapter. And of course, that is a great chapter. He's got the great experience with Adani and on the renewable energy. And it's another example of where we're heading. And of course, we have our SMEs, our small SME chapter. Irfan is leaving that position to head up the New South Wales chapter. And we're doing an executive search for that. On the sports industry chapter, we have a very charismatic Ashutosh Mishra, who has really hit the ground running with Indian cricket, women's cricket. And we're going to see that again, very timely, with the Olympics coming into Queensland, taking root, and similarly with startups and innovation. And of course, women in business with Shiba Nandikiola. And Shiba's done a fantastic job. She's, of course, the immediate past chair. She's driven women in business extraordinarily well. And also trying to encourage our young business leaders. And we have, of course, Arpit Shah heading that one up. And we see big things coming out of that. And of course, we don't want to forget our members and the benefits for members, sponsorship. And we have a great person in Manjeet Singh, who is now leaving his Victoria focus to national industry chair focus for membership benefits chapter. So you look at that, and then you tie that in with your very high quality presidents in every state and territory. And in Queensland, where you and I are from, we have Nick Sanapathy. We have, of course, in ACT, Radhika Reddy, who's just slowly but surely lifting the profile of that branch. We have Deepa Matthew in South Australia, who's really putting and focused on growing that branch. And we have Michael Carter, who's really been doing a great job in Western Australia. Their elections are just about completed, but is finalising the finals of that. And in Victoria, we have our first patron of a particular chapter, and that's Vasan Srinivasan, who's doing a great job there, together with, of course, Ravneeth Pava, who's doing a great job as the Victorian chapter president. In fact, Victoria is really one of our states that are trialling a number of different initiatives to raise the profile of AIBC. And in New South Wales, we have Irfan and Sangeetha, the vice president. They are doing a great job. I, in fact, attended their first management committee yesterday in New South Wales. The energy, the drive, a conversation with the honorary Indian consul in Sydney shows some really great initiatives that are coming through. So, and of course, last but not least, my colleague, Shunushka Siamagal, we work as a team. Now, she's done a great job. She's, of course, also on the Australian India Council. She drove the young professionals, and everything we do as a team. And she's also, of course, got a great legal mind, and that's very good when, of course, we have a zero tolerance policy for organizations and individuals that do not share our values or our strategic directions. And we don't make any apologies for that. And when I speak to other business councils, they say to me, Jim, you're absolutely spot on. That's the only way to go. And I look at some of the very successful business councils, like the Israeli Business Council, the China Business Council, and others. There's always a lot to learn. American Chamber of Commerce, lot to learn. So we're getting in there. And on that one, it's worthwhile noting that we have MOUs with some key business organizations. Now, for the first time in Australia, we have an MOU with the Business Council of Australia and also the Export Council of Australia. And we also work with groups like the Australian Industry Group and others that are here in Australia. And of course, we're working with state officers and Austrade and state government and federal government agencies. And on the India front, we have MOUs with the CII, the Confederation of Indian Industry, FICCI, and FICCI, of course, is the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. It was driven by Mahatma Gandhi in its history. And of course, the Australian India Chamber of Commerce with Pachila Thomas up there in Chennai. And I'd like to we also signed an MOU with Invest India, which is very important in the way we're heading. So when you look at all of that together, we'd also like to improve our relationship with the Australia India Institute. The Lisa Singh has taken over that position. and we look forward to working with her as well. So I guess when you look at it, COVID-19 can make or break organizations, but in the case of AIBC, it's actually made it an even higher profile organization, where we've held over 54 webinars on a range of areas. And they're not just talk fests. They are webinars with a business focus. And of course, finally, we have launched the Australia India Business Enterprises. Now, I'm very hopeful that this body, which is an independent body within the auspices of the AIBC, will grow and transform into an organization that will provide enormous revenue and opportunities for AIBC members. And I'm hopeful that, 5-6 years from now, when I'm looking at my successes, that the membership revenue will be a minuscule part of our overall revenue base. And that increased revenue will allow the AIBC to project itself with much higher level chief executive officers, promotions, marketing, and will become always continue to be a major player. And if I could just put 3 goals that Peter Varghese mentioned, and that is by 2035, we need to lift India into the top 3 export markets. I think we can do that. Secondly, we need to make it the 3rd largest destination in Asia for Australian outward investment. And finally, we need to bring it into the inner circle of Australia's strategic relationships and with people-to-people ties as close as any in Asia.
I unmute myself. Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's really, it's really infectious hearing about the progress, the future, and what AIBC has done over the last 18 months or so, rather than keeping quiet and waiting things were getting better. In fact, it was more proactive approach, which has proved really to be more successful and created a sustainable model as well in delivering networking and events, utilizing the digital platform. It's just been gaining strength to strength. So really wonderful to hear. And also the names that you mentioned, it's really amazing that we have such high profile names in AIBC. That's probably the very reason why, or what people would look for when they want to be members of AIBC, to be able to connect, to learn, to get inspired, and also do things together. And that's what the organizations we are here for, to connect, to grow together, and do more business, bilateral business. So on that note, I wanted to find out what your thoughts are. Do you think the business between India and Australia in the coming year, I would like to say post-COVID or living with COVID year, would be better and more brighter? Would the trade relationships improve?
I think that the opportunities for the trade relationship to improve, but of course, you do need the borders to be opened, right? Yeah. And I don't really enter into the politics of borders. That's a matter between state and federal government. But I can and do say that we need to get Australia into increased trade and investment across the board, not just with India. Right? We're in a phase now where I think that, as I said, there appears to be general consensus that double vaccinations is the beginning of a passport of some kind. And having also been associated with international education, I sit on the board of Victoria Institute of Technology, which is owned by an Indian diaspora member, and experiencing all these issues here in terms of how we can keep profitability, how you work with the regulators, and so on. So when I'm looking at those, and I mentioned those 17 industry national chapter chairs, they are really clearly outline where the opportunities are going to lie in this next 12 months. So we need to do 3 things. Support the Australia India business enterprises as they work with these national industry chapters, as they identify business deals. Now, what we need to do is to take this relationship to the next step. And taking the relationship to the next step means let us now, we have largely over the last 35 years We've identified business opportunities and we've identified them pretty well, right? We haven't really built the golden cages for each of those business opportunities. We have done some. Some have happened by accident. Some have happened by the culture of cricket, Commonwealth and the current, right? And the last one of locking up business deals, I think we've done very little of that, right? So what I'm hoping Australia-India business enterprises will do together with our industry chairs and our national team of state and territory presidents, that we will systematically identify the business opportunities. We will use our collective wisdom to work out which are worthwhile building a golden cage for.
Yeah.
And then we will lock it up and celebrate. Right?
Absolutely. I really can't wait for the travel and trade and everything to be open. So on that personal note, if there's anything else you would like to add, we have more editions coming, so we'll keep the conversations going. We will look into more trending issues, more things that we can discuss over the next months as well. Is there anything else you would like to add to the conversation?
The only thing I'd like to add to the conversation is that I always look at leadership for me is three-dimensional, and I have been applying this in this role as national chair. And the first is that we have a clear picture of what we want to achieve. And I think that is pretty clear now as we go across the board. And it's not just a bureaucratic thing, I've got a strategic plan, I've got this, I've got that. It's a very clear shared understanding of what are the outcomes. So it's an outcome focus. And I'd like to now take that outcome focus and articulate it even more clearly. So that's what I call, a focus on performance. The second one is what I call a focus on relationships. What are the key relationships we need to cultivate and connect the outcomes we're looking for? And with people like yourself and others, I think we're doing that pretty well. We're connecting those relationships. And very importantly with that, we don't get distracted. You focus on those key relationships. If other individuals or organizations come across that are not connected to the outcomes, ignore them. You've got to be tough enough to do that. Doesn't matter how volatile they are, what a big song and dance they can make, irrelevant. What is important? They're important to us if they can connect to outcomes. And the last one, which I call alignment, is very, very important. It tends to be the area where most leaders are tempted to ignore because it's not very open. And the first of that is our structure as the AIBC working for us or against us in delivering the outcomes? And while I'm finishing off this term as national chair, I want to seek the wisdom of the group of what they'd like to change in those structures to make it much more close to outcomes. Now, for example, we changed the constitution that allows the board to select 5 out of the 9 chapter members in each state. That has proved to be a very smart initiative. It has got high quality people in and increased the number of women in AIBC. Now, increasing the number of women is not just talk, it has to be put into action. And a good example of that is New South Wales, where that provision allowed us to bring in some very competent and highly motivated women to balance the gender mix in that state in the recent election. The second part of alignment is feedback. How are we listening to people? Are we only listening to what we want to hear or what we don't want to hear? We need to listen to both. Now, when you listen to what you don't want to hear, the natural reaction is to just dismiss it. Well, I don't do that. I actually listen to it and say, all right, what do I need to learn from that? And bring it in to our thing. And the final part is capability, a belief in our own capability, our collective wisdom and collaboration that we can achieve. And one of our big challenges, and I'll finish with these as we're speaking, is that we are in the process of creating a new ICT platform that can put us to the next level, where we can now have this platform match the new profile of the AIBC. And my colleague Ashok Maso has been heading that initiative up. He's working with our people. It is a very radical initiative. When that initiative comes into place, you'll see AIBC move even faster into increasing trade and investment. So that's my final note. Thank you.
Absolutely excited to hear about all these updates and changes, and really looking forward for more news from yourself as a chair of Australia India Business Council. So let's sign off from the newsletter vlog, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.
Thanks very much and have a great day. Bye-bye. Yeah.
I don't know who would stop recording. Anyway, I'll just give you an update. I am now part of the District Disaster Management Planning and Strategy with the City Council.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty good. Very stoked to be headhunted for that. So really happy about what we can. Yeah, really happy about this. And yeah, very actively planning with the City Council, with this chief of operations for this district disaster management team.
No, that's a good achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Give Mayor Tom take my very best. I've known him over a long time.
Yeah, sure. I might see him tomorrow if he's not free, or if things change, things evolve every day these days. So I'd be meeting with his chief of staff and the deputy mayor to plan on a few things moving forward.
Yeah, I think the challenge for Queensland, and I'm sure you know this already, one of the reasons why the Premier is taking as tough a stance as she is, and she's getting criticised for it, is that the situation with hospital beds is extremely critical. There are not enough hospital beds. And one of the reasons we got the green light in Springfield for 250 is just that. When they told me 6 months ago they wouldn't do it. So got it. Right? Now, what will happen is if we open the borders, and this is the real dilemma. We open the borders next week, and you get the Delta strain coming into Queensland, our hospitals cannot cope. There's something you may want to think about. So the way it can cope, when we do get to a double vaccination certificate, the Prime Minister wins a political battle, which I think will be February, March elections, that opens the borders, then we're going to need home care. Now, you're a medical practitioner, I've got a family of medical practitioners. Now, home care is one of the areas where the India medical supply chain could bring in devices and others that people can use at home. Right? The government has no choice but to accelerate home care as COVID spreads, because there's not enough room in the hospitals. I just leave that with you to think about.
Yes, yeah, I know. I understand. I understand the dilemma. I understand the challenges. Yeah, and once the borders opens, then definitely situation is going to really change. And even now, when Sydney borders opens, I mean, the lockdown lifts, people will travel to closer to our border over here, the team. Yeah. So then passing of COVID and people traveling from the two cities, from essential workers, it's bound to happen. It's only a matter of weeks that we have Delta. So that's a bit.
Yes, yes, I agree with you. So, and you're going to be at the front end of that. So yeah. Anyway, very good work you're doing.
Thank you so much. I'll sign off now. I've got an interview.
Yeah, I'll leave you to it. Take care. Bye.